Hello, good evening. My name is Marcus Ray, and welcome to the Future Show on Inspire FM. This is a Careers in Teaching special, and I'm so happy to be here to tell you about one of my passions in life, and that is a career in teaching. I've been a teacher for 25 years, but I'm lucky also to have a wealth of colleagues with me who are going to help me encourage you to get involved in the education profession, and to hopefully guide you to the correct things you want to do if you want to enter the career. Okay, so first thing I want to do though is thank Inspire FM for having us here, because I know they're a great support for the local schools and education sector already in terms of the shows they do and also supporting local projects. So let's introduce you to a couple of those colleagues that I've got with me this evening. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Tom Billington, and if I get him to say a little bit about himself.
Yeah, I'm Tom. I'm an early career teacher over in Marstonville Middle School, and I went through one of the local skit schemes to get there. And
then we've also got Jenny Lloyd.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm currently the Deputy Head at Chantry Primary in Luton. I've been teaching for 24 years, but also came through a local skit school.
And then I've got my colleague from CTG, Claire McGiven.
Hi, I'm Claire, and I am the Deputy Director for Initial Teacher Training at the Children Training Group.
And my colleagues are therefore going to give me some of their experience this evening as we try and tell you a little bit about your best ways to get into teaching, but also some of their experiences and how they've got into teaching as well. And I'm hoping that there's anybody out there who's interested in working in teaching, especially those in the local area, because one thing that I'm proud to do is talk about getting Luton people into Luton schools and working in Luton schools to represent the diversity and equality of our local area. So if you'd like to contribute to the show this evening and you'd like to ask us any questions, you can use the telephone number of 01582 481 822, or you can use WhatsApp and text us on 07779 481 822. So let's have a little bit of a start as to why teaching, because for me in particular, I chose teaching because I wanted to make a difference to the lives of children, because that helped me with the teachers I had when I was at school. But I just want to ask my colleagues what their interpretation of why teaching is. So if we come across to you first, Claire, why would you encourage people to get into teaching?
The reason I became a teacher is because I absolutely love my subject. I did a history degree, and just the bit about it that I most enjoyed was when I had to go away and research aspects of different topics and then present them back to my colleagues. And I got a real buzz out of doing that and being the person that was helping other people learn. And if that's the kind of thing that appeals to you, if you enjoy making a difference to other people and helping them develop and helping them grow, then teaching is absolutely the career for you. And for the 22 years that I've been doing it, and I don't teach children anymore. I work with adults now. I work with people who are training to teach, but the buzz is still there. I still get the same level of enjoyment and the same level of motivation out of knowing that I've helped somebody develop, helped somebody to improve. I can't recommend the job highly enough, actually.
Great, thank you very much. Tom, you're obviously a newbie to the classroom, but you've obviously seen it in lots of different ways. Give us what it is that makes you think, why did I go into teaching? What was it for me?
Yeah, so I actually started out as a cleaner at my local school, and then I was fortunate enough to get a job being a teaching assistant. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I found out along the way that I really enjoyed working with children. So I kind of worked my way up. I went and did my degree part-time whilst working, and the next logical step for me was to go into teaching full-time, mainly due to how much I enjoyed it, how much fun I have every day, and everywhere I've worked, I've been lucky enough to be part of a very, very supportive team. And
yeah, I think I agree with you that there's endless rewards. The rewards never stop. If you're going to go into teaching, every single day of the week is a different day.
Oh, agreed. Yes.
Every single thing that happens in the classroom is different. You have to expect the unexpected, and there are those days where you think, well, it's really tough. But the endless rewards of seeing pupils develop and learn new things, for me, is just that bit that makes me go, yeah, I don't want to leave this place. I don't want any other career. Jen, different from you?
No, I completely agree. I went into teaching in Luton straight out of university. Kind of fell into it after a psychology degree, but now I can't imagine doing anything else. I work with primary age children, and they make me laugh every day. They're just inspirational little people that have got so much to give. So it really is an amazing career.
If I was to talk about the local area and think about Luton, You know, we were going to have Zabin on the program tonight. Unfortunately, she's not with us. But one of the things that I spoke to her about is the fact that schools in Luton are very much at the heart of the community. They are where people meet, people talk, families support each other. Things in the community projects. I mean, one that I can think of at the moment is John Tree and your green group, and how that has a massive impact on the community. And if we can get people who want to work in those schools and support those children, even better for us going forward. I just want to diversify a little bit then. In what do you think you would do first if you want to become a teacher? How do you get into teaching? What would you guys recommend people do? I'm going to kick off with one of mine, because one of mine is, I think you really need to know a little bit about the classroom. You need to know a little bit about schools, and you can do that many different ways. Most important one, go and talk to a teacher. Find out what life's like. You'll get many different answers, but talk to a teacher to find out about their lives. They'll answer you honestly. They'll tell you some days are tough, but they'll also tell you about the endless rewards as well. So for me, it's talking to a teacher. But for you guys, where would you start if you're going to do that? Claire, do you want to go first?
Yeah, one of the first pieces of advice I always give to people is, if you can, get into a school and go and spend some time in the classroom, because what you experienced as a child, as a pupil, might not be what schools are like now. I know that's been really difficult over the last few years because of COVID, and it's been harder to get into schools and spend time in there, observing, helping out. But the more experience you can get in a school, being part of that community, understanding how schools operate and how schools work, the easier you will find the transition into teacher training. Yeah,
and I certainly think if I were to ask Tom next, that's probably one of the things that he was lucky enough to do, that he was already in a school. So when we're looking from ourselves, say at CTG or any of the local providers, is they want to get you into a school to find out what it's like. So the sooner we can get you applying for courses, or whichever provider it's with, get you into a school and find out what it's like. In your opinion, Tom?
Definitely. I mean, I started off by volunteering just because that was my way in, and it was just a perfect way of seeing if I liked it or not. Fortunately for me, I did, but schools they'll always take a volunteer. They always need help, and I think the best first step is, like Claire says, just get involved. Go to your local school and just ask them, what can I get involved with?
You soon get a feel. You get that ethos, you get that more. You know how a school works, how the children work, how the community works as well. Jen, I know your school's at the heart of the community as well, and you'd probably say the same as me, that get in to see a school, see
Absolutely.
what they're like. But anything else that you'd add?
And I would agree with what Thomas said about getting in there and volunteering. We are always looking for people to hear children read, or to go on a school trip, or to take sports teams here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, the more time you spend in a school, the better. And also, Marcus, completely agree with you. You get a feel for a school the moment you walk through their doors, and that will definitely help you make a big decision.
I mean, I had a text from one of my colleagues earlier when I was asking them about it, who said, sometimes you might find that one school is very different to another. The feel of it, the community feel of it, or perhaps just the ethos of the school. And it's about that experience you get in both of those. One of those might not make you feel as though it's the right place at that time, but if you go to another one down the road, the sorts of things that they're doing with their children might inspire you to want to work in there.
Yeah.
The other thing to do perhaps is have a look on social media. The schools will have their own sort of Facebook and Twitter. School websites give you a really good insight into what happens in the building.
Yeah, they'll also tell you about the kind of things that the schools value and the things that the schools hold dear. And as Marcus said, not every school is going to be the right fit for you. But if you can find a school where, having looked at their social media, you think, yeah, that school represents what I think and what I feel, and is interested in the things that I'm interested in, then maybe that's one to approach. And
you will find schools on social media amazingly telling you about the hard work that they do, the hard work their staff do, but also the successes. I think social media in schools, Twitter, Facebook, just the way to go to find the right direction. So thanks for that. For me, as I said earlier, I was inspired by one of my teachers when I was at primary school, right back in the days. I know for me that's probably a lot further back than for some of you, but that teacher spent a little bit of time making sure that I worked on the talents that I had at the time. I wasn't probably the most well-behaved child in the class, but they worked on those talents. They found out what those talents were to engage me and to get me wanting to be in school. So for you guys, how did you get into teaching in the first place? What was it that really inspired you? Jen?
I moved around quite a lot when I was young, and met lots and lots of different teachers. I think at my secondary school, I came across teachers that really showed a real passion for their subject, and that engaged me. Part of my university degree, I needed to do some volunteer work, and I went to a local school, and that sealed the deal, just being with the children. That led me to the PGCE, and 24 years later, I'm still working in Luton and still having a great time.
I love one of the facts that me and you were discussing earlier is that you trained with one of the local providers in Luton.
I did,
And
yes.
so you're still in Luton as well, which is
Still in
amazing to hear.
Luton, absolutely. Wouldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah, good to hear. So, Tom, similar story or different approach? You told us a little bit about you started as a cleaner and a volunteer, but what about the training that you got?
Training was really good. So again, the staff I worked with previously were always encouraging me go into teaching. You know, that's the best thing for you, for kind of what they knew about me and what I was capable of. And then I went into training, and the training I had was really good, really supportive, very thorough, and very much set me up for, this is now my first year of teaching, but didn't feel daunted by the fact that I was on my own for the first time doing it. Like, the training was good enough that I was confident enough to step into a classroom and just.
And I think both you and Jenna got something in common. You did the PGCE, the 1 year approach.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, training in a school, being at the heart of the school, learning day to day on the job, still having the training that came with it, the theory and the practical, but training on the job.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel that's a real positive factor about training today to be a teacher, is that you can do it in a school, feeling part of the school team, not feeling like a trainee, if you like.
Yeah, you just you're stuck in, you get immersed with it, and yeah, before you know it, you're very settled, and you're kind of comfortable in what you're doing.
Claire?
Yeah, and I very similar to what Tom's just said. I did school-centred initial teacher training, which was quite a new approach 22 years ago. There weren't many Skit providers in the country, but the beauty of that approach that appealed to me, and I work for a Skit now, so it's something which I still hold dear, is, as you said, Marcus, the idea that you should be training in a school, trained by people who are practicing teachers, who are experts at what they do, because they're doing it still absolutely every day. And so the second day of my teacher training programme, I was in my school with my mentor, watching lessons, and it was completely the right approach for me.
Yeah, and myself personally, it took me 4 years. I did the BEd. It took me 4 years to, but in terms of those people who are going to do a 3-year degree in education now, I think it just cements that this is the profession for me. If after that 3 years, you know, you're still doubting it, then maybe it's not right. But the majority of people, once they've done that 3 years, they're committed to it, they're getting going. But I love the idea of people realising that actually you can get into teaching in 10 months, really. You know, although it's a 1 year PGCE, 10 months, and you get that qualification from that experience as well. Let's have a look at the type of people we want to try and encourage to get into the profession at the moment, because, you know, we want to get that diversity, as I said. We've got that diversity across it, but let's look at those type of people. Who in particular do you think you'd like to see talking to us today, sending in a question or getting involved in becoming a teacher?
So recently we've had a lot of career changers get in touch with us, people who've done some homeschooling over lockdown, who've had the opportunity to get involved in this type of work in a way that they haven't done previously. And we've noticed a lot of people getting in touch and saying that they've really enjoyed that aspect, and that they think maybe a career in teaching is important for them. The other thing that people are saying to us a lot at the moment when they're getting in touch is that COVID has made them think now or never. That this has been a watershed. It's made me think about, am I happy in my job? And I've always wanted to do this, and I've realised that now is the time. If I don't do it now, I never will. So lots and lots of career changes, and they bring a wealth of experience from their other roles to teaching. Just because you haven't worked in education previously doesn't mean that what you have done in previous jobs isn't valid.
Yeah, and training providers will be looking for people who are appropriate to train.
Yeah.
So it's all about the attributes of you as a person, the skill sets you have. The experiences are important as well, but those attributes come in as well. For me, the thing you just said about career changes is exactly right. There isn't a right and wrong time really to come into teaching. You know, lots of people who have come through the providers that we know and we work with have come through at different ages, different experiences in life, times where they've gone, actually, I've reached the pinnacle of what I was doing. I fancy doing something and relating it to something else, and teaching's been the one. Jen, anything for you in terms of the type of person?
Well, as a primary practitioner, I'd love to see more men getting into teaching, some more male role models in the classroom, particularly in early years. I think that would be really, really lovely.
Yeah, I can't, from my own perspective, I've often been the only male teacher in schools in all my career in 25 years. Yeah, other than perhaps the caretaker at times, it's me. So it was lovely to see Tom's cohort where I had a couple of gentlemen come in, and the year before, certainly and especially in the early years, those good role models from an early year in life, so that they don't just see that men aren't in school, that men are at secondary school, but that we've got them in primary schools as well.
Agreed, really important.
I think they're probably Tom, so with you, Tom, in the type of school you're in?
Yeah, Jen stole my answer. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously male teachers in any school is huge in terms of that
Yeah.
positive role model. And what you are as a teacher, you are, believe it or not, you are an inspiration, you are a role model for pupils. So if you're willing to be that person and you're willing to, you know, share your expertise and your knowledge in other subjects, then by all means, you know, teaching is a very good thing for you, I think.
I'm a bit biased though. I get to go into quite a few of the schools, especially school where Tom works, and I've seen the high esteem that his kids hold him in, and that they look up to him in terms of him and the way he behaves, his role modelship for them. You know, things like running the marathon, and the kids want to know how it's gone on and what it's done. So it's nice to hear a male speaking so positively about it. I just want to diversify a little bit then. So we've talked about those type of people, but you know, people are always asking me, what are the skill sets you need? What type of person are you looking for in terms of their personalities or their personal skills? You know, I know we're going to probably all have real different answers here, but just want to get a little bit of sense for those people out there listening. You know, do they have those skills? Are those the type of things that they didn't think would be needed by a teacher? I'll kick off. You know, with the old-fashioned one, you need to be flexible. You know, you've got to have somebody who can cope with anything. I always say you've got to be able to cope with lots of different things at once. So you could have 30 different children with 30 different questions, 30 different needs at once. So just that flexibility of being able to approach situations like that and staying calm, you know, just staying in the presence in the room so they all believe in you still. That would be it for me. For any of you?
I once read some data that said that teachers make more decisions in a day than any other profession, with the exception of an emergency doctor in A&E. So I completely agree with you. Flexibility, patience, and lots and lots and lots of energy.
Energy, yeah. Yeah, you'll all see us at the moment, and if you can see us on the Facebook cameras, apologies. You know, we're those last few days of the first half term in school, and one of the things I celebrated with the trainees that I work with on Monday was well done, because 7 weeks is a hard term.
It's a long time.
It's a hard term, so you know we won't hide any of that from you out there. If you're listening, you want to go into teaching. It's a hard term, but the rewards at the end of it are great. So, and I don't mean the rewards of the holidays either. Not all the time. So, Tom.
In terms of qualities, I think what do you want to get out of it? I think you can't go into teaching because you think it's a pretty pay package, you get nice holidays. The motivation behind it has to be the children and the reason why you're there. So that's where the flexibility and the patience and the tolerance comes into it, because there are very tricky days, very frustrating times. But you've got to remember there are fantastic times as well, and that is part of the reason why you're there as well.
Yeah, love it. Chloe, you got?
Yeah, I've got one. Although, like Tom said, everyone's stolen all my answers so far. But I think passion for if you're a secondary school teacher, for your subject, you've got to absolutely love what you do, because the children can tell, and they are still children in secondary schools, even though they don't want to think they are. They can tell if you're not enthusiastic about what you're teaching them about. But if you are, then that communicates itself to them in a way that's almost like magic. You can make a class believe what you want them to believe just through the force of your personality and the force of your determination and your character. And when you have that relationship with a group of young people, it's really something very special. It's a real privilege. But it starts from a love of your subject and a passion for your subject.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky to be at the Luton Community Awards recently and to hear some young graduates who'd finished talking about the charity work that they're doing in the local community, but the passion that they had for the local children, passion they had for the local community. I think you're right. You're smack bang on there. If you can put passion into it, Luton would love you, and I'd love you to come and teaching, because that's what we need. We need people who want that job to be the endless goal for them, the thing that they win every day. They go home, they're really happy about their work as well.
I want the children of Luton to get the very best from us, so that they can grow up to be the very best.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the schools within Luton, they are at the heart of everything. You know, they are the ones that win in there. So if we can get those teachers in there, let's have a look a little bit into then actually the application process and where we go from there. I just want to have a look at the first steps or the next steps for those of you out there who are interested in what should I do next, because you know there's a real tricky step there. What do I do? How do I go about it? Anybody like to start with the first person step?
In terms of applying to teach, or in terms of what do you need to have before you?
No, I'm thinking about deciding who to teach.
Deciding who to teach?
Yeah, because, I often see people decide what year groups
Yeah.
You know, "Oh, I think I'll be most suited to EWFS, or I think I'll be suited to the little children." But I think that's the most important thing before you think about anything else is, where am I going to feel most comfortable?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because sometimes we get people ring up and and speak to us about training to teach, and that's often the first question we ask them: are you interested in primary, or are you interested in secondary? As I've said, I think for secondary it has to come from a love of your subject, because you're going to be that expert, and you have to have that expertise to communicate to the young people. So for secondary, subject specialism is an absolute must.
Yeah, 100%. I think you know, we're not just talking. People think we're talking about just primary and secondary schools here as well. We have got to take into account that, you know, there's also early years. You know, the local nurseries. You know, we are seeing more and more people come and start in an early years career and move throughout a school as well. But also further education. I know some people's vocation may be in the further end of a child's education by the time they've finished their A levels as well. Should we talk about qualifications and what we know about those qualifications? Because, you know, there are almost like quite strict qualifications that you'd need. But
Yeah.
I want to give an example of a bit like Tom and a trainee that we've had recently who thought that they could only, that if they were coming to talk to a provider, they need to have a degree first. You know, and we said to them, actually, no, you need to be planning that journey further back as to, what do I need to have before then? Where do I go to get that qualification? So if I give an example of one who's, you know, who's a bit of an example to me, and that's a young lady called Jenny Langford who worked at Lark Rise with me. She started as a TA. Now, before that, actually a volunteer on the PTA. She got inspired. She did her course part-time over a period of time to get that qualification to be ready. And then at the end of that, she decided to do her training with a local provider, a 1-year training in a local school back in the heart of the community where she was. So for her, she got all those qualifications, but it wasn't just a 1-year journey. That was a mega 7-year plan for her. Anybody want to start with what the qualifications need to be are?
I think that mention of the GCSEs. So obviously you may well be a more mature person and have done your GCSEs or something similar. But if you've got English and maths and then science, because obviously in a primary school you would be teaching all of the subjects. So in primary English and maths at a grade 4, such as a C grade or above, is your very first starting point. And
then comes the degree. So, you know, if you're secondary, that degree choice is very important to you. Claire, I think you've got quite a bit of experience with this. What would you say to people about secondary and teaching?
Yeah, it's helpful if your degree is in the subject in which you train to teach, but that's not always the case. And I can give an example that we've had some trainees come through who make very successful English or history teachers, but they've had a law degree. So if you think your degree isn't quite right, don't let that put you off. Get in touch with a local teacher training provider and talk to them about what your degree is, but what it is that you want to teach, and they'll see if they can help you.
Yeah, and that degree needs to be 2-2 or above.
Yep, 2-2 or above.
So, you know, you may be thinking that if you want to come into primary, what degree do I need there? It's a bit more open. And the fact that you've got that degree in the first place is the best starting point. And we can work from there with you. We can support you on how to make sure you then make the correct application as well. Just before the breaks, I know we're coming up to that any second now. The issue that most people tend to ask about is the funding. Okay, and how it is expensive to get into teaching once you've gone through and got your degree. Any comments from any of the three of you about the routes and how to go about that? Because I can give the most information on there, I think, in the room. But, you know, certainly there is funding out there. That funding is very much reliant on your own personal circumstances and where you are with being able to afford to do the course or not. Generally, the tuition fee course will cost you about £9,000. But there are tuition fee and maintenance loans out there. And the best advice I would give on that is talk to the provider. Ask the provider how that's paid, when you have to pay it, how much it costs, because certainly if you are eligible, that will help with covering some of the costs. There are other ways of going about that. 2 ways, a scholarship and a bursary. So a scholarship, you should be eligible for or either a scholarship or a bursary, depending on the subject you're training to teach. You don't have to pay them back either. You know, and there are some good ones out there for subjects this year coming up, particularly the sciences. So if you are biology, chemistry, computing, design technology, English, geography, or languages at secondary school, those are the ones that there are bursary for. Unfortunately, primary, and I'm going to speak on behalf of primary, there hasn't been a primary one yet. And I'm hoping that we will get one soon, because it will encourage a little few more people to come through the door and who are capable then of affording to train to teach. But don't think it's all about the money. If you need ways of helping you get that funding and get the funding in place, speak to one of your training advisors, speak to one of the local providers. There are going to be quite a few events coming up recently, from the ones in Luton in particular. So if you're interested, there's CTG, there's BSTP and Shire Foundation local area. There's also to Melasham and Milton Keynes, and they will help you understand the process and how to apply and where to get that funding from in the first place. But I know we're coming up to the break, so hopefully we might get a few people call that number again on 01582 481 822 or text on 07779 481 822. But we'll see you after the break.
This programme will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, my name's Salma from Birmingham. Please listen to Inspire 105.1 FM.
It's time to think big. Drop into Barnfield College's Open Day on Saturday, November the 5th from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. to discover your options after GCSEs. Explore our brand new campus and be part of our exciting future. Choose from A-levels, BTECs, T-levels or apprenticeships. You'll develop skills to unlock a career with no limits. Choose Barnfield and you're choosing a future that is limitless. Visit barnfield.ac.uk to book your Open Day.
Landlords, let us take away the hassle of letting your property. Our comprehensive services include tenant vetting, rent collection and service charges, maintenance and repairs. Ideal Properties has 2 branches and have been established over 20 years and have gained a wealth of knowledge and experience.
If you are thinking of selling or letting your property, then speak to a member of our knowledgeable team about a free, no-obligation market appraisal.
We can also offer guaranteed rental income.
Contact us on either Luton 721110 or 696050. Ideal Properties. Service with a smile, whatever your needs.
This Black History Month, Inspire FM is recognizing the achievements of influential Black Muslims. Malcolm X was an American Muslim minister and human rights activist who was a prominent figure during the civil rights movement. A spokesman for the Nation of Islam until 1964, he was a vocal advocate for Black empowerment and the promotion of Islam within the Black community.
Whether you're looking to refresh your current bathroom or enjoy an exciting complete new design, you'll find everything you need at trade prices at Bath & Tile Superstore in Luton, with service with a smile from our super friendly staff. Why not take advantage of our 3D design service? Big names, designer brands at low prices. Bathrooms, tiles, radiators, adhesive, grouting and accessories. Visit the showroom where there's extensive stock to take away or arrange for delivery. That's Bath & Tile Superstore, Cosgrove Way, LU1 1XL. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram for inspiration and updates.
If there's someone ill or you are ill from your family, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have a problem in your life, ask Allah Azza wa Jal.
Catastrophic floods in Pakistan have affected the lives of over 33 million people. The death toll is rising, and the government has declared a national emergency. Our teams are reaching the areas worst hit with emergency food and humanitarian assistance. As the situation worsens, the people of Pakistan desperately need your support. Donate today by visiting muslimhands.org.uk.
Oh, Hillary, I was going to use newspaper display advertising.
But
it costs £10 per inch.
And that's too expensive.
Oh, indeed it is. I want to sell a 10-foot ladder.
Oh, Roger, invest in an ear-catching advertising campaign on this radio station instead. It's a great way to tell people about your products and service.
For details, click on inspirefm.org, then advertise. From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 5:30.
Hello and welcome back. Just to remind you, I'm Marcus Ray and we are on the Future Show and we are doing a special on careers in teaching. Before the break, I left you with a couple of bits of information on the qualifications you might need and funding. And during the break, a couple of us were just having that discussion about what do those different courses look like. So you might have heard a couple of people in the room talking about Skit courses. And the Skit course is very much the one that Tom described earlier, where you actually train while you're in the school. So you spend 10 months in the school with 4 days a week in the school and 1 day a week going for your training on the theories and the practicals behind it. But then there's also the longer version, which is the undergraduate approach. And let's ask Clara if she'll tell us a little bit about the undergraduate approach.
Yeah, we get a lot of people get in touch with us who don't already have a degree, and that doesn't stop you from becoming a teacher. You can still get qualified teacher status, or you might hear it referred to by its initials QTS, if you do an undergraduate degree leading to primary qualification. So courses typically cost around £9,250 per year, and it can take up to 4 years, but you can also get funding to support you during your training time. And qualifications will vary depending on which course you're doing with which provider. So, for example, you can get QTS by doing a Bachelor of Arts, by doing a Bachelor of Education, or a Bachelor of Science.
Thank you very much. And a very good point was raised also by Jen during the break about there being a childcare grant. And I think Jen can tell us a little bit more about that. Or unless she wants me to, she raised it. But do you want me to tell people about it?
Go for it.
So for those of you out there who are eligible, you might get some help with your childcare costs as well. So if you're in full-time higher education student or you have children under 15, the grant does not have to be paid back. It's paid on top of your student finance. And you must be eligible for the student finance in the first place. But what will you get? You get around about £180 for one child or £300 if you've got 2 children. So for those of you who are thinking it's going to be really difficult for me to do that course on top of having 2 children, 3 children and a family to run as well, there are support mechanisms out there as well, which I think is really important this day and age, that we're encouraging people to be actually thinking about their family as well, thinking about the support they can get and the family supporting you getting to the job. Because one of those people that I missed earlier when we were talking about who would you ask about teaching, I think one of the important things is to talk to your family. You know, what do your family think about you going into a career in teaching? Because they're going to need to be there for you and support you a little bit with it as well, because teaching is a very different career, has different timetables and different schedules as well. So I think that's really important. We want to tell you a little bit about those courses and what it feels like to be on the types of support you might get, because I think that's really important to those people out there who are listening and thinking, actually, I do want to do that. I do want to train to be a teacher, but what will it actually be like during that training? So we're going to look at what will your initial teacher training year be like. I'm just going to get some opinions from people around the room about what they know about it already. So if you start with you, Claire, what's your opinion on initial teacher training, what the year will be like for people?
So the year will generally be that you'll spend 4 days a week within school and 1 day a week with your training provider. And at that training day with the training provider, you'll have a mixture of workshops, sessions. We don't call them lectures because that's not what we do. We don't stand at the front of the room and talk at you for an hour. What we try to do in our training sessions is make it like what a classroom would be like, so that you get to see the activities in action and you get to learn in the same way that we want our children to learn. And then we'll set you some reading. We'll also give you tasks to do and expect you to take that learning back into school and practice the things that you've been taught at the training session back when you were in classrooms with the children.
One of the important things I think to mention there is exactly what you were talking about there is, you know, we want to arm you with the skills. So that those workshops and those sessions have got to arm you with the right skills. You've got to feel confident enough then when you're going into the classroom that you've been taught something, that you've been given practical examples of it. Most of those providers will have those people who are on the coal face in the first place, you know, delivering those sessions. You can trust them. You know how good their class teaching is. You know how good their schools are. Either of you two like to add anything to the types of things that you had on your course? I mean, Tom, you're fresh out of it recently. Well, not that fresh. You've had a year gone by since then. But anything about your course that sticks in your mind that was part of it?
Yeah, it's a very reflective course as well. It's not just being told what to do. Part of it is going back and reflect on what you've done, what's gone well and not what hasn't gone well. You go into a school, you're given a mentor. I was lucky, I had a really, really supportive mentor, really thorough in her knowledge and guiding me through what good practice looked like. And I think you get out of it what you put in. So if you are, you're organised and you're sticking to those schedules and you're looking at the areas that you can keep developing in, you'll fly through the course, because it is daunting first time you stand there in front of a class, especially if you've never been in front of 30 children before. It's terrifying, and that's the point. And it's it's supposed to start like that, but by the end of the year you're a completely different person for it, and that'll come down to the hard work you put in. And like I say, my mentor was very supportive, very lucky to go to a fantastic school that really looked after me, and my Skit course as well was, any questions I had, they're always there. They've always got your back.
I was really glad to hear mentors there, because one of the big passions for myself and Claire is making sure that schools have got mentors in who can be almost like that person in the school who specialises in training teachers. They can be the personal person who looks after them as well. And I know, Jen, I think that's very much your role within your school, that you're lead of ITT in your school. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what that means that you put into trainees?
Yeah, I've been a mentor for many, many years. I've also taught some of the sessions at a variety of Skit providers. I think being a mentor is a really, really important role, and it's one that's non-judgmental, and it's one that's about coaching and supporting and really showing a trainee teacher that it's okay to make a little mistake, and it's okay to, as Tom was saying, to reflect on that mistake, to work out where it didn't go as well as you planned. And the mentor's role is to walk you through good practice, and to ensure that the more teaching that you take on as you go through the course, the better equipped you are for delivering that training. It's really important, and mentors are very, very good at keeping in touch with latest research, latest reading, all of the sort of the psychology behind teaching and child development. So you're in a very safe pair of hands when you're working with a mentor.
And I think your school's done that very well over the years, and making sure that they've got people who are particularly trained in supporting and coaching. I love that word, coaching. Getting people to feel as though they can still do it at an early stage. There's still little bits to work on as they move through the school, and that mentorship, it is a dedicated role. You have got to be the right type of person in school. So one of the things I want to ensure people about is that you don't just come into the classroom and you're left to teach a class all on your own. You've got to feel comfortable with that mentor in the room. So that mentor will be there for you, to give you that little smile from the back of the classroom, a pointer in the right direction, just a nod to tell you, yes, going really well, or keep an eye on these two over there in that corner, because the paint's out or something's happened in the corner there as well. And I also know that mentoring's a little bit of a passion of your own as well, isn't it, Claire, as well? So
I think that having really quality mentors is what can make all the difference to a trainee. And I know that I'm still in touch with some people that I mentored back when I first started getting involved in initial teacher training. It's a really special relationship. There's a lot of trust involved there, and as Marcus said, it's not judgmental. You're there to support that person and help them develop. But I think the thing that's really special about being a mentor, which is actually true of all roles with initial teacher training, is it makes you reflect on what you do as a teacher, on why you do it, and what works and what you need to be better at. So it works on all levels. It's not just developmental for the trainee, it's developmental for the mentor as well.
And there's a lot of things to learn.
You
never
stop learning.
You never stop learning. No, I was at some training yesterday learning about new approaches for curriculum design, and trainees are at the heart of that nowadays, because those trainees can make a total difference to how that's delivered in the school. If I was to think about explaining to people who've never been in the profession before just a simple array of those skills, you got to be the person who inspires, motivates and challenges pupils. That it's what you got to expect to learn. You've also got to think about you're there to promote and progress of the children to achieve what they need to achieve, but that it's your responsibility. But as a trainee teacher, you will learn the skills of how to monitor that, how to encourage children to do that, whether that's through rewards, behaviour management, but most importantly, and the thing that we forget most of the time, is you've got to plan lessons and plan what's going to be in the content. What's at the heart of those lessons. You wouldn't believe the amount of time that teachers put into planning those lessons to make sure that the end point for those children is where it needs to be for their age, but also to engage them in learning, make them have had a happy day at school, make them go home and tell their parents about the good things that they've enjoyed. For me, that's the best bit about teaching. When a parent comes in and says, they couldn't stop talking to me about
Mhm.
this last week, or they were telling me about their lesson on plants that they had last week, and now we've got to go to the garden centre. I do like making jobs for parents, you know. So if they go home and say, "Can we do this, Mum? Can we do that at the weekend?" For me, that's the way to go forward.
I quite like giving them a song that drives them up the wall. So especially in early years, you get nursery rhymes and songs, and when the parent comes and says, "Oh, they can't stop singing that song," my work here is done.
But and I bet you majority of those children 15 years later will probably be able to sing it back to you and tell you, yeah, that helped me remember this one. I mean, there's some that we could all go back to now. We all have our
Absolutely,
own. I won't
Don't do
damage
it,
anybody's
Marcus.
ears. No, with any ones we do. But it's those little things like that you will learn in your teaching, your training year to help you be a better teacher, but also make you enjoy your job. Can you tell me a little bit about the placements of trainees? So I was talking to somebody on the phone earlier who phoned up to the provider that I work for and was asking about how the schools are chosen and where the schools are. Just some experiences for yourself, Tom, because I know that you had more than one school that you did your training in.
Yeah, so you have your base school, which is your kind of your main school. You start the year there and you end the year there. But then sort of for us, it was the spring term. So after Christmas, you go to a different school and work in a different sort of key stage or a different year group, just to broaden your experience. Again, meet other teachers, meet other colleagues, just share good practice with those. And it just opens your eyes up to what other schools are doing, because yeah, you might be in a great school to begin with, but every school does something differently, and there's always something you can take from another school.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that every school's different. You know, the things you take away from each of your teaching experiences will be different. They'll arm you in that way, so that when you come to your own job in your own classroom, you've got your own different way of going about it, and you'll meet different colleagues. I didn't even think of it along those lines, Tom. I mean, that shows, you're in there practicing, and you'll have seen what it's like. You get to meet different colleagues who might have talents and skills that you admire, that you see, that are going to impress you, going to make you a better teacher yourself. Yeah, I personally like that one. Anything from the two ladies over there about their placements and what you think are good things about them?
I think we always place students with not necessarily with their mentor, but certainly with a very experienced, qualified practitioner who they can use to observe and to watch and to learn from, so that you wouldn't, as a trainee, you wouldn't be placed in a classroom with someone who's just going to leave you to get on with it and, judge you when it all goes wrong. It's absolutely not that. It's a very trusting relationship of learning.
Yeah, one of my trainees said to me on Monday, she said, I think I came into this half term with 500 questions for my mentor.
Yeah.
I've used 497 of them, so I've got to save up 3 for this week, and then I'll reset when we go back after half term. But the mentor does that. That's the mentor's role, and those mentors that are really talented at that, and whatever type of course you go on, those mentors can inspire you in many different ways, but also they don't mind asking those questions.
Absolutely.
They don't mind listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether, Claire, what you wanted to add anything about those
Yeah,
placements?
I suppose just to say that you'll have 120 days of classroom experience, no matter who your training provider is, and that will be over at least 2 settings. And the expectation is that we provide you with 2 contrasting settings. So whatever your main school is like, your second school will be different. And I know, Marcus, you'll agree with me that the trainees around this time of year, when they're about to get ready for their second placement, start to get a bit anxious, worried about what that second placement will be like. But we know, because we've seen this time and time again, that they come back from the second placement having absolutely loved it, because it's been different, and we choose them deliberately to be contrasting. So to have experienced something different to where they're based for their main placement is a real learning curve, but an enjoyable one.
And that's one of the things I said to Zabin, who would have been with us this evening from Dallow, when we were talking about the range of schools within a mile in Luton, how very different the context of the school can be, and the different communities around them. So it's really important that we encourage teachers to get that experience during their training, to go into those schools, but to go into them with open eyes, and to realise that actually, if they want to make a big difference in that school, you've got to be engrossed in the community that you're in. I'm going to skip to a question a little bit later on about that as well, because I think that for me is at the heart of it. If you're going to be a good teacher, what's going to make these trainees be a really good teacher in those schools? Give us some of your ones. Think about your best teachers in the room. Not necessarily yourselves, because think about those best teachers in the school. What's made them those best teachers in that school?
Commitment.
Yeah.
Commitment to providing an education that is the best that it can be. I think commitment is probably the one that outweighs everything else for me.
Yeah,
I think
Tom?
being adaptive, teaching evolves every year. Something new comes up every time. You can't be the same teacher you were a year ago, so you just go with the flow a bit and just be willing to change.
You only got to look at the world today and the things that have happened this afternoon. You know, those of you who are out there might not want to talk about the politics in particular, but I guarantee you tomorrow morning the amounts of conversations that teachers will have with children coming in, you know, saying, "Oh, did you see last night? So that, you know, the Prime Minister's changed. There's going to be a different Prime Minister." And that is part of teaching, being able to understand the world that's going on around us, the community, and that might be different. So a community event might have happened in the local area, and that will be the big thing. And you've got to be able to, as somebody training to be a teacher, to understand that that's an important part of life as well. Yes, there's the day-to-day lessons, but the important part is that you know what's going on and surrounding in your local community as well. I want to think about that applying again. So we've talked about applying and that they've got qualifications in place. I want to have a little bit of think about the practicalities of that. So when to apply, you know, and how to apply. So I'll give you a little bit of facts about that at the moment, that you can start applying to teach now. You can apply to train in September. And it is worth you really thinking about starting that as soon as possible, because the quicker you do that, I'm not saying rush your applications and don't make them of a high standard, but what I'm saying is get that application in now so that you've got time to get into a school afterwards. You know, let that provider provide the opportunities for you in school. Also, think about your finances, getting your finances together. The sooner you know that you're appropriate to train to teach, you can sort those out. You can start thinking about the next steps with those. Also, with regards to that, you also want to make sure that you know the application process. Fill in that form. You know, it's done through DFE Apply. You know, it used to be UCAS in the past, but you can that opened in October, so people are applying now. We know they're applying now because we're seeing lots of people come to events that we're talking about, and we're seeing those applications come in. But that personal statement can be at the heart of it. So I'm just going to ask a couple of people in the room, and I know, you know, Tom, you've written one. And I'm very sure that you've written a personal statement for your application to get into teaching. So what the good things to put in there were in the past, but also Jen, you'll have read some when people have applied for jobs. And I know certainly, Claire, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here, that you've probably read thousands in your time.
Absolutely.
That was a bit close to saying you've been in the profession for a long time. I didn't mean it quite like that, but you've probably read loads in your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do we want people to put in those personal statements, in those applications, to show those people that they are suitable to train to teach?
We want to know why you want to be a teacher. It's important that you show us that you understand what the role of a teacher is. And that's why, as we said right back at the beginning, you need to go back and do some research and find out what life is like in the school. We want to show that you have that understanding, as well as the other attributes that we've talked about this evening, about passion, enthusiasm, commitment, and all those other things as well.
And I certainly think if we're thinking about secondary training, if you're applying for secondary, it's about why you're suited to that subject as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What experiences you've got of it, or your knowledge and your own subject knowledge experience.
Yeah, subject knowledge is key at the moment. Absolutely.
If I was going to go across to Tom, I know you wrote yours pretty recently, but how did you go about approaching it? Did you talk to people? Who did you talk to?
Yeah, so I spoke to colleagues who'd done similar through the Skit course, and just spoke to teachers that, you know, what is it I need to be mentioning in my personal statement that's, you know, going to bump me up the queue. And yeah, just talk about your experiences of being in school, because I think it's one of the first things you're probably going to look for as a provider is what do they already know about schools and what have they already done. And then, yeah, if you're secondary, your subject knowledge is huge. Why you're passionate about your subject. If you're primary, again, why do you want to work with children of that age? Because it's not just about teaching them subjects, it's social skills, it's coping with day-to-day life in primary school, which is very event.
And I totally agree. I think one of the things that we want to see as a provider, and myself and Claire, we're looking also for the word that Jen used earlier, commitment. You know, I want to see people in their applications telling me about their commitment and their motivation for it, but also their potential. We're not expecting them to have had a vast amount of experience in schools at all. What we're looking for is the right sort of people who are going to provide the right sort of teachers, not just for our local community, but in teaching in general. So if they've got that commitment and they can show that in what they're writing, and also that enthusiasm, and if they've got the enthusiasm for it as well. And we'll soon talk to them about that when it comes to the interview as well. If I was to ask each of you personally, how can I find out more? Who would you go to for advice? Can you give any people that you would talk to? Because Tom, I know you've just said you talk to colleagues in your school or people where you've worked. Anybody else got any best tips to people they'd go and talk to?
I would say contact your local teacher training providers, ring them up and talk to them about the courses that they offer. Read their website first, and then just have a conversation with them about the different routes that they offer, what the experiences their course will provide, and they'll want to help you. They'll want to be supportive, and they'll want to provide that information to you.
Yeah, if I was to give you some example questions, I mean, we've run recruitment evenings where you can come along and meet and greet. So all the local providers around there are running them. You can go and meet those people. Help that make you choose your course as well. Go and talk to those people. Do you feel that they've got the passion for you to train to teach you, as well as you showing that you've got the passion to train to teach with them?
We said earlier on this evening about how every school feels slightly different. Well, every training provider will be slightly different as well, and you want to find one where you feel understood and accepted, one that feels like home to you.
Yeah, certainly. So if I could give any advice on that, have a look at those local providers. You can find them all on DfE Apply, but I was going to give a shout out to a couple of them. So you can talk to CTG Training, you can talk to BSTP, and you can talk to Shah Foundation in the local area. They'll definitely be ones who will talk to you, give you the right advice, help you write those personal statements. They'll be the ones that will say to you, "Go on and tell us what's inspired you to choose teaching," and talking to them at those meetings and asking about qualifications will help you do that application so much better.
Yeah, and then proofread it.
Yeah, proofread.
That's a top tip that's come from me. As Marcus said, I've read thousands of these things. Proofread it. Just because you've written it down, what you think you've written, what you've actually written, sometimes not the same thing. So proofread it yourself, but get somebody else to read it for you as well.
It came as a top tip from one of our trainees as well, didn't it? We have sessions during January where we talk to them about applying for jobs as well. But one of the things a trainee raised at the very first point of that meeting was get somebody else to proofread it as well. Because if you want to be a teacher, one of the things that's got to be at the heart is your good standard English.
Good standard of written English, yes, absolutely.
So making sure it makes sense as well. The grammar is correct as well. There will be local events on those. So if you have a look into that, and you could follow the hashtag Get Into Teaching on Twitter. I know that I like to use that a lot when there are events coming up, but you can also look at Train to Teach. The government website's a fantastic one at getintoteaching.education.gov.uk. It gives you a pathway of decide to teach, what you're going to teach, as we talked about earlier, which age groups. It then talks to you about checking your qualifications. Then there's a bit about funding. By the time you've read that, you've also got a finance checker on there as well. So if you need that little bit of inspiration, you can use the finance checker on there. Once you've done that, that will almost point you in the right direction that you're ready to start doing that application as well. But by all means, come to those recruitment events. If you look online, you'll also see them once a month in the local area from the local providers. And I know certainly that CTG, BSTP and Shire Foundation have got them coming up as well. But follow them on Twitter as well. Talking of Twitter, I'm just going to try and boost my Twitter followers as well. So, if you've got any questions you want to ask me as well, I'm always willing to answer questions on Twitter as well. So I'm at Mr. R Teaching, and if you want to ask me any questions on there as well, you can. But just give that number one more call just in case anybody's got last questions. It's 01582 481 822 or 07779 481 822. Last thing I want to talk about is ECTs, and you mentioned you're an ECT, Tom, over there, and that's what you are now. Training doesn't just stop anymore, does it? Teacher training doesn't stop at the end of your teaching year. In the past, people can think, well, as soon as you're qualified, that's it. You're in a classroom and all on your own. Can you just give an idea of what it's like to be an ECT?
Yeah, so when you qualify and you become an ECT, what it means, early career teacher, you're on basically another 2 years where you're really well looked after, and that training still continues because, I'll be honest, just because I'm qualified doesn't mean I don't make mistakes every day. I do. And it's a case of going back, refreshing yourself on what you trained in last year. But again, you have a mentor, and it's all about making sure those first couple of years of teaching are as good as they can be, because they are tough at times. To be brutally honest, it is difficult. And that's why that framework is in there to look after you whilst you're still finding your feet.
I mean, Jen, have you got ECTs at the moment?
Yeah, we've got lots of first year and second year early careers teachers.
And what kind of support are you putting into those at the moment?
So as Tom says, they have a mentor who supports them. They are the class teacher, so their name is on the register, but they're very, very well supported. Additional training, additional time out of class so that they don't become swamped and overwhelmed. So they are very well looked after.
Fantastic. we're just coming to the end of the show soon, so I've just got a few seconds left. I just want to put a big shout out to the people in the room who've been here today. So just thank Tom, Jen, and Claire. It's been most helpful for me, but it's also been helpful for those people in the local community as well. One of the things I just want to add to that is that we're always there if you want to come and ask us questions on any of those things that come into teaching. So by all means, use that Twitter handle, go to those websites, give us a call. But thank you to Inspire FM for letting us be on the radio for their future show and to talk about careers in teaching. I'm going to leave you with one small thing, that when I asked the head teacher this week about teachers and what they want to come in, they said they want people from Luton to teach in Luton, to teach about Luton, and make sure people understand Luton as well. So if you know that that's you, get in touch, start your career in teaching soon. But thank you very much for listening.